Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, we open the gates of Olympus and step into a timeless realm of legend. This is not a tale of war or blood. It is a journey into light, wisdom, and the spirit of inspiration. The throne we seek is eternal, not carved of gold or guarded by swords, but built of thought and truth. At its heart sits Athena, goddess of wisdom, guardian of cities, and muse of countless generations. Her story begins not in chaos, but in clarity, born from the mind of Zeus, radiant and complete. She emerges as a symbol of insight, guiding mortals and gods with reason instead of rage. Every whisper of strategy, every spark of invention, carries the echo of her divine counsel. The olive tree she offers mankind is more than a gift. It is peace, harmony, and enduring life. The owl by her side is not a predator of the night, but a seer of truths hidden in darkness. Her presence is felt not through conquest, but through balance, order, and the quiet power of thought. So, as you listen, let your imagination rise beyond time, where wisdom itself takes form and voice. This is the eternal throne of Athena, where the crown belongs to knowledge and the soul shines bright. In the beginning, there was silence. The sky trembled with secrets, and the earth waited for a new light to rise. From the heart of Olympus, a mystery unfolded. Zeus, the king of gods, held within him a vision unlike any other. This vision was not of thunder, not of storm, not of fire. It was the spark of wisdom, the birth of a mind beyond mortal reach. And so, Athena came forth, not as an infant, but as a goddess complete, radiant, and eternal. Her arrival was sudden, yet it felt destined. Every god upon Olympus paused to witness her shining form. Her eyes held the clarity of the morning sky. Her presence calmed the air like dawn after a long and restless night. The world had never seen such a birth. No cries, no pain, only brilliance flowing into form. She stood tall, adorned not in chaos, but in divine order. Every gesture, every glance revealed a mind awake with vision. Unlike other deities who carried tempests in their hearts, Athena carried insight, strategy, and the calm weight of knowledge. She was the wisdom of Zeus made flesh, the silent thought given voice, the hidden dream revealed. The gods gazed in awe, but none feared her. For Athena's power was not to wound, but to guide and inspire. Her throne was set not by conquest, but by presence. She needed no crown of iron, for her spirit was her sovereignty. Legends tell that she emerged with armor gleaming. But this was no armor of war, it was the brilliance of prepared thought. Each piece reflected discipline, each fold shimmered with clarity. It was not meant to strike, but to shield what is just and true. At her side was no weapon to destroy. Instead, she carried the promise of reason over rage. Mortals would one day look to her for guidance. But in that first moment, even gods bowed to her wisdom. Her voice was calm, yet it carried across Olympus like a song. It spoke not in command, but in truth that could not be denied. "I am Athena," she declared, "born of thought, guardian of reason." And her words fell like light across the divine mountain. Every star seemed brighter in her presence. Every shadow retreated, unable to stand before her wisdom. The story of her birth became more than a tale. It became a symbol of what the mind can bring forth. Athena was not merely born, she was revealed. As though the universe had always held her, waiting for release. The earth rejoiced, for a new guardian had arrived. A guardian not of storms, but of balance, insight, and learning. She was unlike Ares, who thrived in the chaos of battle. Athena thrived in the harmony of order and careful design. She was unlike Aphrodite, who ruled ruled with the power of desire. Athena ruled with clarity, teaching that the heart must serve wisdom. Her throne in Olympus was destined, yet she did not seize it. She sat upon it with grace, as though it had always been hers. In her, mortals would see the path of progress. In her, gods would see the strength of thought over impulse. She was the dawn of wisdom itself. Clothed in divine form, her essence would shape cities, inspire poets, and guide rulers. The birth of Athena was not the end of a mystery. It was the beginning of an eternal journey toward light. Every story of knowledge finds its root in her presence. Every triumph of reason echoes her first radiant breath. She is the eternal daughter of the mind, a reminder that wisdom is the crown that never fades. And so her first chapter was written, not in thunder or flame, but in the quiet triumph of thought given life. This was the birth of Athena, the eternal goddess whose throne would be wisdom itself. Athena did not rise as a goddess of war alone. She was born as balance, a bridge between strength and reason, shadow and light. Her throne was not carved for battle, but for judgment and guidance in times of doubt. Every glance from her eyes spoke of clarity, as if truth itself was reflected within them. When gods quarreled, Athena brought silence. When mortals feared, she offered courage that came not from weapons, but from knowledge. Balance was her gift, the harmony between force and restraint, passion and discipline. She knew that unchecked strength could destroy, just as hesitation could weaken. So she walked the path between extremes, carrying wisdom as her shield. In Olympus, many deities embodied excess. Ares embodied raw fury. Poseidon embodied restless storms. Aphrodite embodied desire unbound. But Athena embodied the center, the steady flame that did not flicker with chaos. Her presence was a reminder that no throne stands without balance to hold it firm. Mortals often prayed to her before councils, before voyages, before decisions of great weight. They trusted her voice more than the clash of swords or the rush of emotions. Athena was not blind to conflict, but she saw beyond its noise. Where Ares rushed to strike, Athena paused to see the pattern hidden in battle. Where Poseidon stirred the seas in anger, she calmed the tide with reason. Even Zeus listened when Athena spoke, for her words carried no bias, only clarity. The gods knew she would not flatter nor deceive. Her counsel was steady, like the olive tree she cherished. The olive tree grows slowly, yet it endures storms, fire, and the wear of ages. Its fruit nourishes, its branches shade, its oil brings light. This tree was her symbol of balance, rooted deeply, yet reaching high. Through it, Athena taught mortals that true power lies in patience and resilience. Balance was not weakness. It was strength refined and sharpened by discipline. A hero who sought her aid did not receive brute force. Instead, they received vision, the ability to act with purpose rather than impulse. Balance made leaders greater than soldiers, thinkers greater than destroyers. The city of Athens itself carried her name because it reflected her harmony. There, law and debate flourished alongside art and craftsmanship. Athena was present in each stone, in every council, in the spirit of progress. Her balance shaped not just cities, but entire civilizations. And yet, her balance was not cold. She did not silence passion, but taught it to serve wisdom. She did not banish strength, but guided it to protect, not consume. Balance is not the end of conflict, but the art of holding opposites in peace. Athena embodied this art with grace that no other deity could claim. Mortals saw her not as distant, but as near, a teacher, a guardian, a voice within. They carried her lessons into courts, into homes, into the way they lived each day. When they chose peace over rash anger, Athena's spirit was alive in them. When they built schools and temples, her wisdom guided their hands. She was balanced not only in Olympus, but in the hearts of those who sought truth. Her throne, unlike others, did not demand worship through fear. It was sustained by respect, by love, by the quiet devotion of thoughtful minds. Balance was her law, and balance was her gift. Through it, Athena became eternal, untouchable, the goddess who could not fade. For wisdom never dies, and balance never breaks. So long as there is light to temper shadow, Athena's throne will endure. And in every age, when the world leans toward chaos or silence, Athena rises again to remind us that the truest power is balance itself. Athena was more than wisdom in thought. She was the guardian of cities, the spirit that gave birth to civilization itself. Her presence was not confined to Olympus, but walked among the stones of mortal life. Every street, every council hall, every temple built in her honor carried her essence. She was the protector of Athens, the city that bore her name and carried her light. This city did not rise from conquest, but from vision, guided by her unseen hand. Athens was a place where words could be stronger than weapons. It was a place where debate shaped destiny, where knowledge was valued above fear. Athena's protection was not in walls or armies, but in the spirit of her people. They were taught to think, to create, to lead with wisdom instead of anger. When Athens was founded, mortals sought the favor of the gods. Poseidon promised the power of the seas, his trident striking the earth with force. From the ground came a spring of salt water, wild and untamed like the sea itself. But Athena's gift was quiet and enduring. She touched the soil and brought forth the olive tree, humble yet eternal. Its fruit fed the people, its wood built their homes, its oil lit their lamps. It was not a gift of fury but of life, not a promise of storm but of peace. The people saw her wisdom and chose her gift. They named their city Athens, forever bound to her spirit of reason. This was not just a tale of origin, but a symbol of civilization's heart. Athena showed that true strength was not in destruction, but in creation. From that day, Athens became her living temple, a city of thought and progress. Philosophers would walk its streets, their words carrying her voice. Artists would carve stone into beauty, inspired by her vision of harmony. Leaders would gather in councils, guided by her sense of justice and balance. She was in the olive groves, in the marble columns, in the voices of its people. Every step within Athens echoed with the wisdom of its goddess. But Athena was not bound to one city alone. Wherever humans sought to build, she walked among them unseen. Every law written in fairness, every craft shaped with care, bore her mark. She protected not with shields of bronze, but with the light of learning. Her cities thrived not by chance, but by discipline and vision. To Athena, a city was more than stone and gate. It was a living body, shaped by its people, guided by justice, nourished by peace. She was the soul of that body, ensuring it grew with strength and order. Where other gods asked for worship through fear, Athena inspired through respect. She gave, and in return, mortals gave her their trust and devotion. Her temples rose high, not as monuments of fear, but as places of gratitude. Each column stood not for dominance, but for the spirit of progress. In Athens, she was more than a goddess. She was family, protector, teacher, and eternal guide. And beyond Athens, her spirit became the guardian of all human striving. Every time mortals chose wisdom over wrath, Athena's light shone brighter. Every time they built instead of destroyed, her throne grew stronger. Civilization itself became her sanctuary, her temple without walls. The heart of every city that valued truth and justice carried her name. Athena was not only the goddess of one people, she was the goddess of all who sought to live with thought, balance, and peace. In her protection, cities grew into symbols of harmony. In her guidance, humanity found its path toward greatness. And so, Athena became not just a guardian of a place. She became the eternal protector of civilization itself. Long ago, when Athens was still young, the people sought a divine protector. They turned to Olympus, asking which god would bless their city with a lasting gift. Poseidon, lord of the seas, rose with power in his eyes and a trident in his hand. He struck the earth, and from the ground burst a fountain of salt water, wild and loud. The people marveled, yet the water was bitter, a symbol of the sea's untamed force. It promised ships, storms, and power, but it carried no nourishment for daily life. Then Athena stepped forward, her presence calm, her wisdom shining like dawn. She bent low to the soil, her hand gentle upon the waiting earth. From that touch sprang a tree, green and full, with roots that reached deep. It was the olive tree, strong, humble, and eternal. The people gazed upon it, not in awe of thunder, but in recognition of life. Its fruit could feed them, its branches could shade them, its oil could light their nights. It was not loud, not violent, but enduring, a gift for generations to come. Poseidon's spring roared like a storm, but Athena's tree whispered of peace. The people chose her gift, for they saw wisdom in its quiet strength. They crowned her the patron of their city, and from that day it was called Athens. The olive tree became sacred. Its branches carried in festivals and peace offerings. Its oil lit lamps in temples and homes, a symbol of her presence in daily life. Its wood built tools and ships, yet always served creation, not destruction. Athena's gift was not just survival. It was prosperity, culture, and harmony. It taught the people that the truest strength is in what endures. The olive tree grew as the city grew, both rooted in wisdom and resilience. Every harvest was a reminder of the goddess who had chosen peace over power. Every meal, every light, every shade beneath its leaves carried her blessing. She had given more than a tree. She had given a philosophy of living. Athena showed that true leadership is not about spectacle, but about sustenance. The people learned to value quiet strength, to honor wisdom over fury. Their city flourished not because of conquest, but because of vision. The olive groves stretched across the land, turning soil into sanctuary. Travelers came from afar, drawn by the balance of beauty and reason in Athens. And in every corner of the city, the symbol of the olive tree stood proud. It was painted on shields, carved into stone, and offered to gods and rulers. Yet its meaning was always the same: peace, nourishment, and eternal growth. Athena's choice revealed her heart, not to dominate, but to guide with care. She gave humanity not a weapon, but a way to live in harmony with the earth. Her gift was silent yet profound, humble yet more powerful than Poseidon's tide. It was a reminder that wisdom always plants seeds where force leaves scars. The people thrived, and the world looked upon Athens as a light of civilization. Philosophers spoke beneath olive branches, their words echoing her wisdom. Artists drew inspiration from its form, weaving beauty from its simple grace. Leaders carried olive crowns, symbols of justice and honor, under her watchful gaze. The olive became more than a tree. It became a language of peace. When nations sought truce, they offered branches, as Athena once offered her gift. Her influence spread far beyond Athens, carried on the winds of her wisdom. Wherever an olive tree grew, her spirit was said to linger, patient and strong. Mortals remembered that it was not thunder that shaped their future, but peace. They understood that Athena had given them more than a city. She had given them a vision, a way to live in balance with the world. The story of the olive tree was passed from parent to child, a living myth. And so, the tree remained eternal, just as Athena's wisdom remained eternal. Her gift stood as proof that the greatest offerings are not of power, but of peace. And in the shade of the olive tree, Athens found its soul and its eternal goddess. The Parthenon rises in Athens, a temple carved in stone, yet alive with meaning. It was not built for conquest, but as a house of wisdom and harmony. Every column, every carving, every beam of marble was touched by human hands. The people did not raise it in fear of gods, but in reverence of Athena. It stood upon the Acropolis, the crown of the city, glowing under the sun. From afar, travelers would see it and know they approached a place of reason. The temple was not merely a building, it was a dialogue between mortals and divine. Each stone carried the labor of craftsmen, each line carried the vision of Athena. Sculptors carved friezes of myth, not to glorify violence, but to honor wisdom. The birth of Athena was etched in marble, her arrival radiant and whole. The Panathenaic procession stretched across its walls, a story of unity and devotion. People of all ranks walked together, bearing offerings of olive branches and cloth. The temple itself became a symbol of balance, symmetry, and clarity of thought. Its design echoed the very principles Athena cherished: order, logic, and beauty. The Parthenon was not only a temple, but a beacon of civilization. It told the world that Athens was not ruled by force, but by vision. Inside, a great statue of Athena stood, gleaming with gold and ivory. She held in her hand Nike, the spirit of victory. Yet her gaze was serene. Her shield rested at her side, a protector's symbol, but not a threat. The people did not bow in fear, but stood in pride beneath her watchful eyes. They came with prayers not for war, but for guidance, justice, and peace. The Parthenon became the heart of Athens, a place where faith met philosophy. Festivals filled its steps, music and poetry rising like incense into the sky. Athletes ran in her honor, poets recited verses, and artists displayed their craft. It was a living temple, breathing with the energy of a city that loved wisdom. The olive oil from sacred groves was offered, shining like liquid sunlight. Priestesses tended the rituals, not in mystery, but in dignity and calm. Children learned her stories, their voices echoing beneath the marble roof. They grew with her wisdom as part of their heritage, their identity. The Parthenon did not silence people. It inspired them to speak, to create. It was as much a school of thought as a sanctuary of faith. Every traveler who stepped inside carried away not just memory, but inspiration. They returned home with stories of a city where the goddess was knowledge. And so the Parthenon became a monument, not of power, but of enlightenment. Its marble seemed eternal, yet it lived because of the ideas it carried. It whispered to the world that beauty and reason can dwell together, that temples can honor not just gods, but the highest human ideals. Athena's spirit was not confined within its walls, but spread through its symmetry. She was present in the balance of form, in the measured grace of design. The Parthenon taught that wisdom is not abstract. It can be built in stone. It showed that philosophy could live in architecture, tangible and enduring. The city gathered there not only to worship, but to remember their calling. Athens was a city of thinkers, artists, and dreamers under her protection. And the Parthenon was their lighthouse, guiding them toward harmony and clarity. The goddess of wisdom had no need of thunder to make her power known. Her temple stood without violence, yet it commanded awe across the world. It was proof that peace and knowledge could be greater than fear and force. And as the sun set upon the white marble, it glowed like fire on the horizon. It became not just the heart of Athens, but the heart of human imagination. For even centuries later, the Parthenon would stand as a voice of wisdom, a voice that says, knowledge endures, harmony is strength, and Athena is eternal. Athena's wisdom was not confined to temples or marble walls. She walked in the hearts of heroes, guiding them with clarity of thought. Unlike other gods, she did not offer brute strength, but insight and vision. Her counsel was quiet, yet it shaped the greatest journeys of mortal lives. When Perseus faced the impossible task of slaying Medusa, Athena stood by him. She did not hand him a sword alone, but a polished shield like a mirror. With it, Perseus could face danger without falling into its petrifying gaze. Her wisdom taught him that the mind can outmatch even the most dreadful power. Odysseus, too, carried her favor through his long voyage home. She whispered strategies in his ear, not only for war, but for survival. When storms raged, she taught patience. When enemies closed in, she gave cunning. His wit, sharpened by her guidance, became his greatest weapon. Athena did not fight his battles for him, but reminded him of his own strength. She shaped heroes by teaching them to rely on thought, not blind force. Even Heracles, strong beyond measure, found her wisdom indispensable. In his labors, it was often her advice that turned the impossible to possible. She gave him order when chaos threatened to consume him. Thus, even the strongest among men needed the balance of wisdom. Athena's guidance revealed a truth. Heroism is not in might alone. It lives in the marriage of courage and reason, of strength and clarity. She was the unseen companion, a voice of logic in moments of despair. Mortals prayed not just for her blessing, but for the spark of her thought. They knew that to walk with Athena was to carry light into darkness. She did not promise an easy path, but she gave tools for endurance. Her shield could protect, but more importantly, her wisdom could prevent folly. She became the goddess of strategy, not only in battle, but in life. Every decision, every turning point, bore the possibility of her touch. Mortals honored her by thinking deeply, by choosing carefully, by creating wisely. In her presence, invention flourished, and human creativity soared. She gave mortals the art of weaving, turning thread into tapestry. She gave them the craft of pottery, shaping earth into vessels of life. She gave them architecture, teaching them to build not just shelters, but symbols. In every skill that required precision and vision, Athena's hand was felt. She was not a goddess who demanded sacrifice, but one who inspired excellence. To honor her was to use one's mind, to cultivate discipline and insight. She became not just a patron of warriors, but of thinkers, artists, and makers. Philosophers claimed her presence when ideas struck with clarity. Craftsmen invoked her name when their hands found harmony with their minds. Even farmers, tending olive groves, felt her wisdom in the rhythm of the earth. Her influence touched every corner of human life, from field to workshop. Athena's wisdom was not limited to the heroic few. It was a gift for all. She showed that every act, no matter how humble, could be noble with thought. The woman weaving cloth honored her as much as the warrior in armor. The child learning letters honored her as much as the orator in the square. She was present wherever the mind was used with care and integrity. Her heroes were not only those sung in epic poems, they were also the countless mortals who lived with wisdom each day. Athena's eternal throne was built not only on myths, but on daily choices. For every time a person chose reason over anger, she reigned. For every time someone built instead of destroyed, she ruled. For every time truth was spoken with courage, her spirit was near. Thus, Athena's greatness was not only in divine acts, but in human reflection. She was proof that gods could guide without controlling, inspire without commanding. And mortals, in their gratitude, carried her torch forward in their lives. Her throne was eternal because it lived not above them, but within them. In the heart of Athens, wisdom was not locked away in temples, but shared in the open air. Athena's spirit filled the agora, the bustling square where citizens gathered each day. Merchants displayed their goods, artisans offered their craft, and voices of debate rang out. It was here that ideas were exchanged as freely as olives and wine. Philosophers stood beneath the sun, speaking not only of the gods, but of truth. They questioned justice, courage, beauty, and the very meaning of a good life. Their words flowed like rivers, sometimes clashing, sometimes joining in harmony. This was not mere conversation. It was the weaving of thought into a fabric of wisdom. Socrates wandered these streets, questioning men and women with gentle persistence. His inquiries were sparks, igniting the flame of self-reflection in all he met. Athena's presence seemed to hover over him, guiding his relentless pursuit of reason. He did not claim answers, but urged others to look within for clarity. His wisdom, like hers, did not shout. It whispered and endured. Nearby, Plato listened, gathering ideas and shaping them into timeless dialogues. He dreamed of a city ruled not by power, but by philosophy and justice. Athena's olive branches seemed to nod in agreement, their shade covering his visions. Later, Aristotle walked in gardens, speaking of logic, ethics, and the study of nature. He believed knowledge was not distant, but rooted in the patterns of daily life. Athena's influence echoed in his balance of observation and reason. Through these thinkers, Athens became more than a city. It became a school of the world. Every thought spoken in its streets carried her silent blessing. For Athena was not only goddess of war and craft, but of understanding itself. She taught mortals that truth is not owned, but sought, not found, but pursued. Her throne was in every question asked with honesty, in every answer shaped with care. The philosophers did not worship her with sacrifice, but with inquiry. Every dialogue was an offering, every reflection a hymn in her honor. Her spirit lingered where people gathered to learn, to argue, to grow. Thus, the agora became her second temple, alive with human voices. It was proof that wisdom thrives not in silence, but in shared thought. In every argument and every agreement, her presence could be felt. For she was the goddess who valued not blind faith, but thoughtful search. Athena's eternal throne glowed each time a citizen chose reason over rashness. Each time they sought to understand instead of condemn, her power grew. The city became a beacon, not because of walls or weapons, but because of wisdom. Travelers came not only to see statues and temples, but to hear words of truth. They carried those words back to their own lands, like seeds scattered on the wind. And wherever those seeds grew, Athena's influence followed. Her wisdom did not belong to Athens alone, but to all of humankind. The philosophers were her instruments, mortals shaped by her guiding hand. They extended her throne beyond Olympus, into the realm of human thought. For every question asked in wonder, Athena was present. For every truth discovered through reason, her voice was heard. In this way, she became eternal not only in marble and myth, but in philosophy. The streets of Athens were her sanctuary, the conversations her prayers, and in every soul who dared to seek wisdom, her eternal throne was alive. Her power was not in dominance, but in the quiet transformation of minds. The goddess of wisdom had carved her place not in heaven, but in humanity. And as long as humans sought knowledge, Athena's throne would never fall. High above the city of Athens, the Parthenon rose like a crown against the sky. Its marble pillars gleamed in the sunlight, a tribute to Athena, guardian of the city. Travelers came from distant lands to see its beauty and feel its sacred presence. Inside stood a statue of the goddess, radiant with gold and ivory, serene yet powerful. The people entered in reverence, their footsteps echoing softly across polished stone floors. They carried small offerings of oil, honey, or garlands of flowers. No sacrifice of blood was needed, for Athena valued devotion of spirit over ritual. Her temple was a place of quiet awe, not fear. Citizens prayed for wisdom before journeys, counsel before decisions, and strength before trials. The Parthenon was more than stone. It was a sanctuary of trust. Its walls told stories carved in relief, tales of gods, heroes, and the triumph of order. Every image reminded the people that Athena's presence guided their lives. In times of harvest, they thanked her for abundance. In times of debate, they invoked her for clarity. Even in moments of conflict, they asked her to temper their courage with reason. The Parthenon stood as both monument and message, a living symbol of wisdom. It was not only a temple of prayer, but a gathering of community. Festivals filled its steps with laughter, music, and the dance of mortals in her honor. The Panathenaic festival drew crowds from across the land, celebrating her eternal gift. Processions wound through the streets, carrying sacred cloths woven by skilled hands. Athena was honored not in silence, but in joyous expression of life. Children learned her stories beneath the temple's shade. Elders retold her lessons so they would never be forgotten. The Parthenon became a school of memory, teaching through stone and ritual. Even as time weathered its columns, the spirit of Athena lingered. The goddess did not demand perfection of her temple. She was present in the devotion of her people, not in marble alone. Every visitor who entered with humility carried a spark of her wisdom away. In this way, her temple was a vessel, pouring light into mortal lives. The Parthenon stood against storms, wars, and the long passage of centuries. Though its stones were scarred, its meaning endured untouched. It reminded mortals that wisdom cannot be broken by force. It whispered that truth survives, even when structures fall. The eternal throne of Athena shone not only in Olympus, but here, on earth. Each column was like a pillar of her wisdom, each carving a story of her spirit. Her presence filled the air, calm yet commanding, graceful yet unyielding. Visitors felt her gaze, not stern but guiding, steady as the stars above. They left knowing they had touched something timeless. The Parthenon was a bridge between gods and mortals, sky and stone. It carried the promise that wisdom belongs to all who seek it. And as long as the temple stood, Athena's throne would never fade. Even when ruins would one day remain, her influence would still breathe through them. For Athena was not bound to marble or ivory. Her throne was alive in memory, tradition, and every act of reason. The Parthenon stones were her testament, but human hearts were her true temple. Every prayer whispered there echoed far beyond the city. Every offering of gratitude reached Olympus itself. And Athena, in her eternal grace, continued to guide, protect, and inspire. Thus, the Parthenon was not only a temple of Athens, it was the radiant heart of wisdom for the world. It stood as a reminder that gods may dwell in heavens, but their thrones can live on earth. And in the case of Athena, her eternal throne gleamed within the Parthenon's timeless light. The olive tree stood at the heart of Athens, its branches silver and green in the light. It was said to be the very gift Athena gave when the city chose her as its patron. The story was whispered across generations, a tale of gods offering blessings to mortals. Poseidon had struck the earth with his trident, bringing forth a rushing spring of salt water. It roared with power, dazzling in its might. But the people hesitated. Water of the sea could not quench their thirst, nor could it nourish their land. Then came Athena, calm and graceful, planting her gift into the soil. An olive tree rose, humble yet enduring, its roots deep, its branches steady. The people saw in it not only food and oil, but the promise of life itself. They chose Athena, not for spectacle, but for wisdom that endures beyond moments. And so, the olive tree became sacred, a living reminder of her eternal gift. Its fruits fed the hungry, its oil lit the lamps through darkened nights. Its wood built tools, its branches crowned victors in games of honor. The olive tree was not just a plant, but a bond between goddess and people. Generations tended it with reverence, knowing it carried her presence within its bark. Farmers knelt at its roots, asking for strength through each harvest season. Mothers pressed olives into oil, blessing their homes with Athena's grace. Sailors carried vials of that oil, believing it guided them through storms. Every use of the tree was an echo of her wisdom, practical and profound. Athena's gift was not meant to dazzle, but to sustain. It taught mortals that true blessings are those that nurture daily life. In times of scarcity, the olive groves stood as silent guardians of survival. In times of celebration, their fruits poured forth like symbols of abundance. The tree itself stood through centuries, weathering storms, fire, and time. It became more than myth. It became history, rooted in both earth and soul. Visitors came from distant lands, marveling not at temples, but at the sacred tree. They touched its bark, whispering prayers, as if Athena herself might hear. For to touch the olive was to touch her wisdom, her patience, her quiet strength. It was said the tree could never die, for the goddess renewed it. Even when cut down, new shoots would rise from its ancient roots. This resilience became a symbol of Athens itself, unyielding and eternal. Athena's throne was not only in marble halls, but in the soil of the earth. Her wisdom was not lofty or unreachable, but practical, rooted, alive. The olive tree was her promise that true power lies in giving, not in taking. It was her way of saying that endurance outshines force, and life outlasts spectacle. Citizens looked to the tree and saw not only a past, but a future. It stood as a reminder that wisdom grows slowly, like roots deepening unseen. That patience is as mighty as thunder, and subtlety as enduring as stone. Athena's eternal throne glowed in its branches, silver under the sun and moon. Every leaf shimmered like a blessing, every fruit like a jewel of the goddess. The people knew their bond with her was not carved in stone, but living in green. As long as the olive tree stood, Athena's promise remained unbroken. And even today, when eyes fall upon ancient groves, her spirit can still be felt. The olive tree, her sacred gift, whispers quietly of wisdom and endurance. It stands as a bridge between myth and reality, between the divine and the mortal. It is proof that Athena's eternal throne does not fade with time, for her true temple is not in heavens or marble, but in the gifts that sustain life. And the olive tree rooted in Athens forever tells her story. Athens was not only a city of temples and markets, but a place of learning that reached beyond its walls. Athena's influence was seen in the way knowledge became as valued as wealth. Parents urged their children to read, to write, and to listen with thoughtful hearts. Teachers gathered pupils under olive trees, where lessons flowed with the rhythm of life. Geometry, music, astronomy, and philosophy were not luxuries, but pillars of education. The goddess of wisdom was felt in every scroll unrolled and every idea debated. For Athena knew that knowledge was the truest shield against ignorance. Athens became known not for armies, but for minds that dared to think differently. Young students carried wax tablets, inscribing lines that carried hope for the future. They copied words of poets and philosophers, learning not just facts, but perspective. Every lesson was a step toward a city built on reason rather than force. In this way, education was not just practice, it was worship in her honor. The academy rose as a place where questions were treasured more than answers. Plato dreamed of a republic led by philosopher kings, guided by truth, not greed. Athena's spirit moved in those halls, unseen yet undeniably present. In the Lyceum, Aristotle spoke of logic, ethics, and the natural order of things. He taught that knowledge must serve life, not float above it. Athena's hand seemed to guide his balance between observation and principle. The Stoics taught patience and strength of mind, virtues she herself embodied. The Cynics reminded the city of simplicity, echoing her disdain for vanity. Each school was like a branch of her wisdom, growing in different directions, and yet all shared the same roots, planted by her eternal gift of thought. The city thrived not because of conquest, but because of its pursuit of knowledge. Travelers came from faraway lands, carrying ideas back like sparks of a great fire. Libraries grew, filled with words that whispered across generations. The scrolls did not just preserve memory, they extended Athena's throne into eternity. In each word written, her voice lingered. In each problem solved, her light shone. Athenians did not see learning as a burden, but as a path to divine connection. Every teacher was a priest of wisdom, every student a humble devotee. The schools became temples of thought, as sacred as the Parthenon. And though wars would later scar the city, the flame of learning never died. The ideas shaped under her gaze traveled farther than any army could march. They crossed seas, inspired new civilizations, and planted seeds of democracy. Athena's eternal throne was built not only in marble, but in the minds of learners. Her wisdom lived not in statues, but in the capacity to question, to reason, to grow. Each time a child learned to read, she was present. Each time a thinker challenged the world with new ideas, her throne brightened. Her power was not in controlling mortals, but in teaching them to think freely. For true strength lies not in silence, but in understanding. The schools of Athens stood as reminders that knowledge is sacred, that wisdom is the path by which mortals ascend toward the divine. The goddess of wisdom required no temple greater than an open mind. Her eternal throne glowed each time truth replaced ignorance. Each time reason outshone fear, her crown shined brighter than gold. Athens itself became her living temple, alive with voices of learners. And in the breath of every scholar, in the words of every teacher, Athena endured. Her throne was not in Olympus alone, but in every classroom, every scroll, every question. And as long as knowledge is sought, her eternal throne shall never fall. Athena's story does not end with marble temples or fading scrolls. Her presence flows quietly in the lives of those who seek truth. The eternal throne was never a seat carved in stone. It was an idea, a spark of wisdom that could never be broken. Athena sits not above the clouds, but in the thoughtful silence of a learner. She lives in the pause before a question is asked. She breathes in the courage it takes to speak the truth aloud. Her throne shines whenever kindness is chosen over cruelty. Whenever reason replaces blind fear, she is crowned anew. The people of Athens once built her statues of gleaming ivory. Yet the truest monument was always the wisdom passed from one to another. Her temples may crumble, her altars may fade with time, but the light of her wisdom endures beyond stone and dust. Every library built is another pillar of her eternal throne. Every school opened is another step up her divine staircase. In the hands of a teacher, her spear of wisdom gleams. In the heart of a student, her shield of clarity protects. She has no need of armies, for her power is timeless. Ideas travel farther than soldiers, and they do not die. Athena's eternal reign is not one of dominion, but of guidance. She shows mortals that true strength lies in wisdom and justice. Through her, the world learned to question and to reason. Through her, the world saw that thought can shape destiny. She does not demand worship, but she inspires devotion, a quiet devotion found in the love of knowledge. In every library light, she lingers like a gentle flame. In every question bravely asked, she stands beside the speaker. Her presence is subtle, yet vast as the heavens. Her throne eternal, because it lives in human minds. The wisdom she grants grows with every generation. It changes, it adapts, yet its heart remains pure. She teaches that justice is not a gift, but a duty. That wisdom is not an ornament, but a necessity. Her legacy whispers not of conquest, but of understanding, not of wealth, but of truth freely shared. Athena endures where fear cannot. She guides where force cannot. The eternal throne shines in every act of fairness. It gleams in every decision shaped by compassion. Athena reigns in the choices of leaders who serve. She reigns in the minds of thinkers who seek clarity. Even now, she watches as humanity learns and grows. Every invention, every discovery carries her silent blessing. Every time ignorance is challenged, her throne stands taller. Her wisdom is not locked to one time or place. It belongs to all who choose the path of truth. She reminds us that learning is not a burden, but a gift. That questioning is not defiance, but devotion. Her crown is made of olive branches, symbols of peace. Her throne is made of minds that refuse to surrender to darkness. As long as humanity seeks light, she is never gone. Athena's eternal throne does not rest in myth alone. It rests in the present moment, alive in every search for truth. And so her story continues, written in every act of wisdom. Her voice remains steady and calm, guiding us forward. Not in thunder, but in thought. Not in conquest, but in clarity. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, forever sits upon her throne, a throne that is eternal, because it lives within us all.